Hi, all. So, we've been asked to give some words of advice about crafting your professional identity in the writing program, especially with an eye towards the long arc of your career and then maybe towards promotion and things like that. So, I want to offer three words of advice. Well, really, three sets of three words that I wish I had told myself. And hopefully, I don't know, to some extent, I think I may have followed already, though. And the first one is follow your interests. So, whether you are interested in traditional Rhet comp issues, whether it's pre writing or drafting or aspects of the process or feedback, or if you're interested in other things, right? We have lots of interests represented in our program. You know, folks who are doing great work in community engagement. Think about Stephanie and John and Ben and Emily and Nick and Kate. People who are doing other sorts of research like the Perfect A project, think about, or Atia and Ashley's work on science writing, or Mary Traster's work on hypothesis. We have folks working on issues of disability, cultural diversity, inclusion, Mandy's work on multi-language learning, Antonio's work on the law, right? We have lots of different interests among ours and among ourselves, and all of these could be developed into articles and presentations, just sort of building on your interests as they stand. So let's start with that idea. And then the second three words would be find your community. So there are, of course, professional organizations out there, whether it's MLA or 4Cs, NCTE, APA, or of course the Electronic Literature Organization, where I've found a lot of like-minded folks. You want to find people that you can interact with. Again, think about Mike Bunn's work for 4Cs. He's very active in that program. But also, I think it's important to think about informal groups, whether it's listservs or Facebook groups or organizations and clubs, or even just people that you like to collaborate with, right? Because we need to be in discussion with others. I think that's crucial to building our professional identities. So we do it in community, in collaboration with others. Three other words: share early, freely. I guess we're not counting the and there. I am a big advocate for putting your work out there, even in draft form, whether that's sharing your syllabus or sharing your notes or assignments in progress, or just stories about what's going on in your classroom. I've learned so much from people in person, hearing these stories in presentations and things like that. But I think I've learned a little bit more from the opportunity to explore the things that have been shared on the internet. Again, think about things like Katie and Dan's podcast and how great that is. And I hate to say it, but I am an over big advocate for then putting these things out there on social media. You know, perhaps that is my Achilles heel, but I do think it is worth putting those out there into the world on the platforms that exist today. So the next thing I'd like to share with you is a little example of how this has worked in my own teaching. So a couple of years ago, I walked over to Jessica Cantiello's office. Her office is right next to mine when we're in real life and real space. And we started talking about mind mapping. And I am not a big fan of the traditional bubble maps. And she also had some ideas about how students need a little help with sort of communicating the need to knows, the sort of foundational knowledge that readers need to have to understand your argument. So we started chatting about this and pulled out, I don't know, maybe a sheet of paper or maybe started writing on one of our whiteboards the idea of maybe a different kind of mind map, one that showed dependent relationships of knowledge. And so over time, we came up with this idea that we eventually called the chain of dependencies. And this is a heuristic you can do with students. It's really easy. And it turns out to be like a very different kind of mind mapping activity that will help students understand the logic that underpins their thesis for their paper or their overall argument, let's say. So anyway, we came up with that tactic or that approach, I guess you'd say, and we tried it out in class. And then from there, we just did like a quick write-up of it on the platform Medium and put it out there into the world just to see who was interested. And it did get picked up by a Medium collection, which is kind of like a publication. And some other people came across it and they seemed to be interested in it. And then that kind of gave us some energy to later turn it into an article, to first do the groundwork and try it out in our classes and collect some samples and get permissions and all of that. And then eventually we did turn that into an article that was published in a communications journal. But again, it kind of all started with just something we were doing in our classroom, a conversation that we were having about a need we had and experimentation, but then putting it out there into the world, sharing it with other people, and then continuing to develop and research, right? So I think that a lot of what we need to do for professional identity is really just be authentically ourselves as teachers, but to realize that it doesn't take much to take something we're doing in our classroom and to put that out there in the world for other people to see and to share and give us feedback on. And then as that gives us a little bit more energy, then we can develop those into the kinds of peer-reviewed articles that the world needs. And then I kind of also would argue that then we need to take those articles and make sure we distribute them in open access repositories as we can. Anyway, those are 3 words from me or 3 sets of 3 words, although it really did seem like a lot more words that I would share with myself and share with you guys today. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts. So just to recap, follow your interests, find your community, share early and freely. And there are 3 other words that might be important right now, and those are like, follow, and subscribe. If you're interested in these or other videos about teaching composition or writing in the age of social media, or maybe bizarre videos of me either voicing guinea pigs or maybe even talking through a strange avatar. Never know what you'll find.